we have reached to of course, we're still on the topic of zakah, and we said how important the zakah is. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the zakah in the Quran more than 80 times. It was mentioned, I think, 83 times, and always right along with the salah. We know the salah, the main pillar of Islam, right after the shahada. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, said every ayah you see in the Quran almost, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ, establish salah and give the zakah. Shows the importance of zakah, because something, the zakah comes from something dear to everyone's heart. Allah said in the Quran, وَتُحِبُّونَ الْمَالَ حُبًّا جَمًّا. You love money dearly, or so much. So even though, still Allah can take it from you, because Allah is the one who gave you. It's a big test. And Abu Bakr radiallahu anh said, I will fight the one who differentiates between zakah and salah, both from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anyone denies zakah will become kafir, as he denied salah. So zakah is something big in Islam. A lot of us, subhanAllah, we know general idea about it. Some of us, we don't have full understanding of zakah. And this, inshallah, just summary, of course, we're not going to take like a big, course about it, but something to summarize what the zakah is. As we have mentioned, with the gold and the money, last dars, we said if you own the money, or gold or silver, it's equivalent to 85 grams of gold or 595 grams of silver, then you owe zakah, as long as you have it for the year. So you have to reach two conditions. You have to own it, and for the 1 year, and to have reached something called a nisab. Nisab, nun, sad, alif, ba, means the minimum amount of money you have to have for a year, then you owe zakah on it, which is 2.5%. So this is something you need to understand. That's whether dollars or any kind of currency, or gold or silver, then we have to pay zakah if we reach, which is equivalent, I would say, $5,000 or so, around this much, depends on the gold, the prices. So this is, we owe 2.5%. And the categories of zakat was mentioned in the Quran, إنما الصدقات الفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها, till the end of the 8 categories, people who should or eligible for zakah. Is not for anyone, for 8 categories. We cannot just try to figure something else besides what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mentioned in the Quran is set. Some fatawi, they said you can give your zakah money to build a masjid in non-Muslim country. But really there's enough for people, enough categories of zakat to do. I think people, Muslim, mashallah, they can build masajid without the zakah money. Like this masjid was built with all regular money, we didn't even use a penny from zakah money. So some fatwa. But really zakah should be paid for the one what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran. Of course, we're not criticizing or underestimating the fatwa, but if you are able not to use it and different than what Allah said, then you stick to what the ayah have said and would be the stronger opinion, and Allah knows best. The other thing we have zakah on, we said if someone owns, we said diamond or pearl, something to wear for the sisters, there's no zakah on it, different than the gold. We say the gold, even if the women wear, the stronger opinion to pay zakah on it. And this every year, of course. So if the woman wear a diamond ring or some pearl or something, things like this, she does not have to pay zakah on it, because it's not a gold or silver. But if you have the pearl or the diamond as a business, then you pay zakah on it as everything else you own. All right, they call it urud tijara. So this is something we have to be zakah. Let's say with the Imam here, the Sheikh mentioned about the cattle, the cows, camels and sheep and goats and so on. They call it bahimatul an'am. He said they call it cattle in English. And bahimatul an'am, the cattle, we must fulfill 3 conditions before we pay zakah on it. Or a few conditions, they have different opinion about it. First of all, of course, the first thing, if you own it, if you have the sheep or camels or cows, whatever, to sell it, will become like everything else, like a business. So just something for a business. And if you own it and there's different thing. We said if you feed it, you buy the hay to feed it, different than if it's like eats from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grows out there. You're not paying. If most of the year eats out and you buy only for 2-3 months, that means we go with the majority. That means you have to pay zakat because it does not cost you much to raise it. If you pay for all of it, then if for you, for milk and so on, there's no zakat. If for business, then you pay zakat according to the intention you have it for. So, for example, if you have the camels, or back in the days they have cows or something to till the land, or just to bring water from one place to another for work, there's no zakah on it. As you have a car, you work with Uber, you pay zakah on it. This is a machine, or you have a machine to make money with. So this is different. So you didn't pay zakah on it. Same thing with this one. But if something to sell and buy, you pay zakah on it. Or if something been grazing from the land of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you're not paying for it most of the year. So this is one thing we need to understand. But again, there's a nisab. There's nisab for the cows, the sheep, and the camels. So the nisab, if you have anything less than that, then you don't owe any zakah on it. So minimum amount of sheep you have to have 40. If you have 39, doesn't matter what your intention is, you don't pay zakah. So the thing is 40 to 120. So if you own 40, no, 39 or less, there's no zakah. 40 all the way to 120, you pay one sheep. And has to be 6 months old and above. 6 months old and above. And if, like the udhiyah, when we slaughter, the sheep has to be 6 months and older, right? The sheep, same thing. If you own 40 to 120, then you give one sheep, but has to be more than 6 months. So now if you own 121 up to 200, you owe on it two sheep, has to be over 6 months old. And now from 201 to 399. So went up the number from 40 to 120, then 120 to 200, then from 201. So if you owe 121 or 19 or 200, the same, you give two. From 201 to 399, you give 3 sheep. 3 sheep. And all has to be 6 months. Now what after that? Every 100, you add 1 sheep to it. So if you owe 400 and above to, for example, 500, then, or 499, 1, then 500 to 599, and so on. Every 100, you give 1 sheep to it, beside what we have mentioned, the amount of the zakah you give on. So the cows, if you owe 30 or less than 30, there's no zakah on it. If you owe 30 to 39, then you owe zakat 1 cow which is 1 year old. You owe 40 to 59, then you have to give one 2 years old. So little stuff like this shall we understand, and we move on from there, inshallah. So the camels, subhanAllah, if you own 1 to 4 camels, you don't pay zakah on it. So if you own 5 camels, how much you give on it? 1 sheep. Yeah. So you didn't camel, because camel is very expensive. Islam is so fair, subhanAllah. You own 5 camels, 5 camels could be worth $50,000. This is what my knowledge, expensive camels, or just could be less, could be like 5,000 each, for at least 5,000, so 25,000. You give a couple hundred, right? So, or like 300 or 400. So the average will be the same. How about if you own 10 camels, you give 2 sheep. 15 camels, 3 sheep. 20 camels, 4 sheep. 25 camels, you give 1 camel. Right. So, and 1 camel has, of course, certain age, has to be 1 year old, and so on. So if you owe from 25 to 35, you give from 25 to 35, you give 1 all the way, just 1. If you get 36 now to 45, you get a camel 2 years old. And move on, if you have 46 to 60, you give something 3 years old, and so on. So the thing is, and for 61 to 75, you give 1 4 years old. If 76 to 90, you give two of them for the 1 year old. From 91 to 120, you give 2 from the 3 years old. That's the zakah for the cattle. And we said also last week, I don't know if I mentioned this, if, I don't think I mentioned that. So if for the regular, if you have a farm, if you water the farm, you give 5% if you pay money for it. If only watered by the rain, you have to give 10%. Now, if it's mixed, 50% from the rain and 50% you pay for it, then we pay 7.5%. So go in between. So if you don't, the money does not cost you anything, 10%. If you pay up for it, 5%. If 50-50, then you owe 7.5% of that. And there's of course zakah for the grain, wheat, barley, corn, and so on. There is also have to have an nisab on it, which is, they said, about 300 sa'. The Prophet ﷺ, prophetic sa', they said, it differs. They said 2 kilo and 40.4, so about 6 pounds, 6.5 pounds, or so on. They say this, the famous, about 6.5 to 7 pounds. This is then times 300, about, they said 612 kilo. If you have from any grain, barley, wheat, corn, then you owe zakah on it, and so on. And same thing, the zakah for the grains has to be, if you water it, 10%, if you don't water it, if you water it 5%, if you don't water it, will be 10%, and so on. So the thing is, it depends, same as the farm. And the time for the zakah, for that when you get the harvest, the time, or when you know the time this is ready to be, either when you get the harvest, whatever, the apples, the orange, the barley, the wheat, at that time, or when you know this is, most of it are ready to go, then you start giving the zakah. طيب. If you have some fruit, vegetable, tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, and things like this, there's no zakah on it unless there is something for business, then become 2.5%. The tomato is different than the farm. Okay, now, the honey, if you have the nisab, which is 62 kilo from the honey, and this is not for home use, 62 and above, then you pay zakah, and again 2.5%, ربع العشر. So 2.5% for the honey, and so on. We said everything comes from the sea or the ocean, like pearl and so on, and there's no zakah in it unless you want to sell it, become 2.5% as well. Anything for sale, then you go 2.5% and so on. We said last week, if someone found some gold in the land, gold from wherever, been buried for 1,000 years or so, the Jahiliyyah gold, for example. What do you do with it? We said, remember the amount? How much? When should we do it? Immediately. We don't wait a year. Usually you wait a year on the thing. So immediately, and there's no nisab. Doesn't matter the amount. It could be worth $1,000, could be 10,000, could be $1 million. Immediately, and there's no nisab on it. You don't wait for the year and don't worry about the amount of that. So this is the things we need to understand. The other thing, we said anything when it comes to the houses or things ready to live in, there's no zakah on it. Unless something for businesses. The house you own, whether you own 1, 2, 3 houses for rent, then we said you get the zakah from the rent. You add it to your income. But if the house is there to sell it, you have a house, you don't want to rent it. So what you do, you want to sell it. Then if you have for the year, then you owe zakah on it. So better off you rent it out before you pay the zakah, because imagine you own a house worth $500,000 or $1 million, which is not much. Well, you owe $25,000 if it's $1 million. So, but the thing is, if you rent it, then you add the rent to your income, and after you deduct your expense and so on, for the money you have the year, if it reaches an nisab, then they pay zakah on it. If you own things like tractors and so on for the land, or just machines for your factory, you do not pay zakah on it. If you own a factory, whatever kind of factory, you have machines, you do not pay zakah on the machines there. If you own like tractor to till the land or so on, you do not pay zakah on the machine there. You pay the zakah on the income. Different if you own a store, cell phone store, whatever store, grocery store, you pay for the inventory, you pay zakah on it. Because this is about you own and you're going to sell. And this amount of money to sell. So you take the average, how much you average a year. Let's say, for example, you own a cell phone store. Your inventory average sometimes 50, 60, 70, 40, whatever, depends. You need to know the average, do not take a chance. I own usually average, let's say $50,000 or $60,000 a year. Then you pay zakah, 2.5% according to the average you have. Make sure do not take a chance. Make sure you pay zakah to the maximum, so you will not be, you're not taking a chance and you're not sinning. How about if someone owns a store, liquor store, wine, beer, and so on? Is there any zakah on it? He owns money. Nothing? Yeah. It's haram. They said there is no zakah on it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not accept it. This has nothing to do with the zakah. But how about if someone stole the money and he has the money? What you have to give back. First, if you give it back, or about someone gain money from gambling or interest. Of course, there's no zakah on it, unless, or you give it back to the people, and if you don't know the people, then you pay zakah on it, and still you're sinning. The other type of zakah is zakat al-fitr. Zakat al-fitr, a lot of people in Ramadan, we get this confusion with the people. They think zakat al-fitr, they give you like $1,000 zakat al-fitr. There's no family made out of 100 people. Zakat fitr, like, this whatever for each family member, we said the few sa' of what they call it, sa' of iqt or zabib or tamr and so on. So which is like 6-7 pounds of dates, which is like about maximum, the best day, $35. It could be from $10 or $15 all the way to $40. So average $15 or $20 per person. And the zakat fitr, the thing is, it's connected to siyam al-Ramadan. It has nothing to do with what you have. And this one taken from everyone almost. Everyone have enough food for a day or two. So you have to be rich. Let's say you have very low income, you're just making it, and you have $20 extra in the bank or so on, you pay zakat fitr. And zakat fitr has so much, subhanAllah, so much benefit and so much wisdom and so beautiful. Zakat fitr, one of the wisdom zakat fitr, so everyone will have food in the day of Eid. They don't have to worry about finding food for the family. Zakat fitr, one of them, to make up the shortcomings during the siyam. Because when you fast, but sometimes we say things, we say things, or we see things, or we hear things haram, to make up our shortcomings with siyam, to make it perfect. Zakat fitr, part of it, for each Muslim to practice to give, not to take. Even the poor one, he gave zakat fitr. He might receive, someone said, he might get, some people give him, but at the same time he goes and give. So every Muslim practice giving. So there's so many wisdom zakat fitr, and this Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, and the hadith of Sa'id said, كنا نخرج zakat fitr صاع من طعام, أو صاع من شعير, أو صاع من تمر, أو صاع من إقط, أو صاع من زبيب. So the hadith in Muttafaq alayhi Bukhari Muslim said, in the time of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we used to give zakat fitr sa'. Sa', we said, about 6-7 pounds of ta'am, food, or barley, or date, or he said, or yogurt, dry yogurt, which is the meat nowadays, or raisin, and so on. And there's other narration and different kind of things to give the zakat al-fitr, roughly about the same things. But has to be given food. Zakat al-fitr cannot be given money. This is the stronger opinion among the scholars, the one with the dalil. And remember, we build our belief based upon the dalil. The dalil means the proof from the ayah or the hadith. The hadith is clear, food. The people, they said, people need money nowadays. Okay, need money, but this one, give them from zakah. There's zakah, there's sadaqah, not only zakat al-fitr. People, they just want to do something different than the sunnah. The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave food, give food. If you feel bad for them, give them the food and give them money. So stick to this one. Your $20 given or $30. A lot of people that have 2, 3, 4 kids, they're going to be like $20 or $30. It's not, give it the way it is, food, and give extra, the zakah or charity. So stick to the sunnah. Don't take a chance. Say there's a fatwa. I understand there's a fatwa. But Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam did this. When you meet Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you're going to have a fatwa or I did what you did. That's what you do. The dalil, this is the dalil. This is the proof. That's the hadith, clear hadith. Bukhari, Muslim, the highest level of authenticity. The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave this. And Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, during his time, there was some poor people in need for money too. And they had the money, but still didn't give money. Make sense? They had money, but did not give money. During the time of Bakr and Umar and Uthman, they all have money. They said, oh, this he gave money. They said Umar al-Aziz gave money. This is not true though. But let's say he did, but Umar al-Khattab did not give money. And Abu Bakr did not give money. And Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, better than all of them, did not give money. They said, this madhab gives, okay, but the madhab give, but Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not give the money. So we stick the way it is, and has to be done, given before Salat al-Eid. The later, the better. Used to give it after the Maghrib, the last day of Ramadan. But nowadays it's hard to give it so, because especially here in the non-Muslim country. In a Muslim country, you can give it to the neighbor right there. Could be like 20 feet away from you, or 100 feet or something. You find a lot of them. You go and give them the food. But here, it will be too hard for us to give it. Has to be given like 10 days before Ramadan. But the sunnah, if you live in a Muslim country, give it the day of Eid. The night of Eid, the last night of Ramadan, before Salat Eid. This is the best time to give it. Let's say Ramadan 29 days, and tomorrow's Eid, tonight. You start giving zakat tonight. This is the best. But like I said, nowadays, in a non-Muslim country, it will be hard if you give it any earlier. At that time, it will be very difficult to give it to the poor and the needy. We need a lot of time. Between the house and other, like about 20 minutes to drive and so on. And zakat al-fitr is mandatory upon every living person in the family. Male, female, old, young. Even Uthman radiallahu anhu, he said, the baby in his mother's womb. It's only Uthman radiallahu anhu. If you want to do that, you follow the sunnah of Uthman, which is Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, عليكم بسنتي وسنة الخلفاء المهديين من بعدي. So he said, you follow my sunnah and the sunnah of the 4 rightly guided Khalifa after me. So if you want to follow the method of Uthman, fine. If you did not, you are fine too. Uthman made ijtihad and he said, pay even the baby in the mother's womb, and so on. And the thing is, the zakah, there's adab for the zakah, the manners of zakah.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
Alhamdulillah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there's the manners. Of course, the first before the manners of zakah. The time for zakat, the zakah we said we have mentioned just to just remind you. The time for zakah, if you own a farm or barley, whatever, you've grown a barley or wheat or things like this, anything, the grains. The time for the zakah for it, immediately during the harvest season. So every time you have the harvest, then the zakah do there. If you have gold or silver or dollars or money, then this will be once a year and has to have a nisab. And the nisab, which is we have mentioned before. The manners of zakah, I mean, you have to, like the salah. You can't pray and say, making salah, said, I wish there's no salah. You have to be happy, do that you're doing salah. So same thing, you have to be so happy you're giving zakah. And the thing is, and you choose the best part of your money to give. Something like nice and so on, and something halal. And when you give the money, not to show like, you're doing him a favor. Matter of fact, as we have mentioned last week, we said this is, imagine if there's no people to give the zakah. Imagine no people to give the charity to. This is the best feeling when you give someone poor or needy. First of all, his money is not yours. This is the beauty about Islam. You don't go to him, go find a job. No, this is, okay, just give him the money and don't worry about it. Don't worry about him finding a job. This is your job to give him because this money does not belong to you and so on. And to hide it, sometimes the zakah, even though it's mandatory, you cannot hide. Some people, they hide, come to the masjid, say, I don't want to show off. This is the hypocrisy. If you don't come to the masjid for salah, just so people, they will not say he's showing off coming to the masjid, then this is hypocrisy. But this sometimes to have the zakah, so you not become arrogant. It's good. And sometimes to show it, so you encourage the others and remind the others to give it. So it depends on your situation. So here and there you have to balance things out. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, He said, إن تبدوا الصدقات فنعمها وأن تخفوها تؤتوها الفقراء فهو خير لكم. He said, if you show charity, it's good. But if you hide it and give it to the poor and the needy, it's better for you. But the thing is, we know Abu Bakr gave all his money. We know Umar gave half his money. We know Uthman, he equipped the army of the difficulties, they call it, and gave the water well and so on. So the thing is, sometimes showing the zakah is very important. Showing the charity, important. But you have to fight your nafs and fight your shaitan from the showing off. So a lot of times showing is good. And sometimes always do something hidden. Not everything to show, not everything to share. Like the salah. Do salah at night. Read Quran. Do it sometimes by yourself. Make dhikr sometimes when you're alone. Give charity, hide it and give it. So sometimes hiding is good, but the thing is here, sometimes to show it is very, very important. And many examples of Sahaba, they have showed this charity. But the Sahaba, of course, the most sincere people have existed. But the thing is, you have to fight yourself and do it sometimes to encourage the others. And The thing is, always try to find the one who in need, rather than who you think this better, closer to your heart, or so on. The one who in need more, then the more rewarded. The more poor the person, the more rewarded you are. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَأَنْفِقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاكُمْ مِنْ قَبْلِ أَنْ يَأْتِيَ أَحَدَكُمْ الْمَوْتُ فَيَقُولُ رَبِّ لَوْلَا أَخَّرْتَنِي إِلَىٰ أَجَلٍ قَرِيبٍ فَأَصَّدَّقْ. Said, spend from what Allah have gave you before death comes to you. And then you would say, oh Allah, if you delayed me for just a short period of time, so I give. SubhanAllah, sadaqah and charity is something huge in Islam. Because you take something, Allah takes something dear to you, and you give it willingly, happy. SubhanAllah, they said, the first thing you wish to come back for to give charity. Because the reward for the one who gives charity, you see how honorable, how high it is. And even the hadith of Rasulullah said, when the son of Adam passes away, he will not receive any good deed except from three things. One of them, ongoing charity. SubhanAllah. So ongoing charity, the charity could be from anything. Could be money, building a masjid, sponsor an orphan, digging a water well, or so on, even a tree, or so on. So anything could be a good charity. As long as you spend money, this is the reward for it is so big. And always remember, any obligatory more rewarded than the optional. Like Salat al-Isha, more rewarded than the Taraweeh. Salat Fajr, more rewarded than the Qiyam. Even the Qiyam, huge. But still, the reward for Salat al-Isha, more. Salat al-Dhuhr, more reward than Taraweeh. You see a lot of people come to Taraweeh and miss Isha in Ramadan. But you didn't see him at Fajr. May Allah guide us also. That means there's good in their hearts. No doubt. You cannot criticize someone come for a month of Ramadan. But the misunderstanding or the concept here, the thing is like they come for Taraweeh and doesn't come for Isha throughout the year. So this is something we need to focus. The zakah is more rewarded than the sadaqah, no doubt. Even though the sadaqah huge. Fast a day outside Ramadan, Allah will distance your face 70 years away from hellfire. But if you fast in Ramadan, more rewarded than the optional day, and so on. So the zakah has to be given immediately when the year is over. And the year, of course, Islamic year, not the regular calendar. For example, from Muharram to Muharram, Dhul Qa'dah to Dhul Qa'dah, Hijjah to Hijjah, Shawwal to Shawwal, and so on. Has to be this, according to that, according to the Islamic calendar. If you delay, if you did not give for 2 or 3 years, then you owe, and you have to give what you owe. Of course, it would be best to give the zakah in the town you're living in, if people in need. If not, make sure send it or give it to the people who are in need more than anything else. If someone owes you money, if you think you're going to get the money, then you pay zakah on it. If you think he's not going to give you the money back, then you do not pay zakah on it. And if someone owes you money, and you know he cannot give it to you, you cannot deduct his money from the zakah. Let's say you owe like 2,000 or 3,000 zakah, and someone owes you 1,000, you cannot pay 2,000 because you deduct that money. So it doesn't work like this. So does not work. Has to be given. It has to be. You have to wait till he gives it to you, or you don't pay zakah on it, and it does not count from his zakah. Inshallah. Inshallah, we'll stop right here. It's time for.